It's Ursula from ursula-smith.com, and recently I have been cutting Yupo paper on the Silhouette Curio, and I love this paper. It cuts beautifully, especially if you're into really intricate designs, and even more especially if you like teeny tiny intricate designs. So this paper is kind of plasticky, so it cuts really well. However, if you want to color it using inks and stains and dyes, it doesn't stick to the plastic. It kind of wipes right off. It may tint it a little bit, but you don't get that full coverage. So I'm going to be playing around with different mediums. Today I'm going to be playing around with light molding paste. This is probably going to show up backwards, but light molding paste to cover the cutout, and then see how that dries, and then we'll color it with some of those mediums like the inks and stains and dyes. So thanks for joining me today, and here comes the experiment. So I am doing an experiment today. I'm hoping it's going to be a twofer. So I'm using light molding paste, but if you have like matte medium or anything that's got like tooth to it, I am assuming, as long as this works, that will work as well. So I'm just taking some of the matte molding paste, the light molding paste, and I'm putting my cutout on a piece of cardstock. So this is why it's going to be a twofer. And I'm just running the molding paste over the top of the cutout. So what I'm trying to do is get molding paste on the background as well as on the cutout. Probably should have used a bigger spatula here. So it wouldn't move my cutout as much. So if you have a bigger spatula, that's probably a better thing to use than this little one. And I'm going to leave some of those marks in it because that will give it some texture and some interest. And then, before it dries, because I actually don't want it to dry, although actually if you left it on, you might get the relief of the cutout as well. I would probably run the spatula over so the molding paste is a little bit thinner around the background. And then I'm just lifting it off. And then I'm going to let that dry separately. And then when we get back, I'll have the molding paste dry on top of the Yupo cutout, so it'll have a little more tooth, and then hopefully I can come back over with some spray stain or ink or any kind of dye-based medium. So when everything is dry, I will be back. Hi, I'm back, and so my molding paste is dry, so I'm just gonna end up spraying with, I'm gonna use some of the Distress Oxide spray and then some of the regular Distress spray stain. So this is dye based, this has some pigment in it, and I'm just gonna use some different colors. But now that I have the molding paste, especially on the piece of Yupo, these sprays should adhere a lot better than and dry a lot better than if I just did it straight onto the Yupo. So I'm just going to give them some quick squirts, and I'm doing it on another piece of paper because I'll have a piece left over once I remove that heart. It all got gunked up. I must not have cleaned it very well. So the first spray that I used was the Distressed Oxide in Mermaid Lagoon. Now I'm using Rusty Hinge. And don't forget to clean off your pumps before you put the caps back on and put them away. And then I'm also going to come back over, probably should have done the Rusty Hinge last. I'm going to come back over with just the regular Distress spray stain And this one is broken china. A little color that. And then same thing, distress spray stain. Just a little bit of bundled sage. And might come back over with a couple of squirts of the rusty hinge. Sometimes I actually take the pump out and then just do droplets. Actually, maybe I'll do that now. And then I'm going to go off and let it dry. And when it's dry, I will be back. Hi, I'm back, and I went off to do something and let this dry. It's still a little damp, but you mostly get the idea. So if you look at the areas where it's darker, that's where there is no molding paste. So the regular cardstock uncoated sucks the ink in, so it's much darker than the molding paste around that stencil cutout that I had when I originally spread it. And then here's the cutout, and that seems mostly dry too. Now, if I had sprayed this on just the plain Yupo paper, this would still be wet. It would be smearing all over the place. Most of it would wipe off, and you'd be left with pretty much just like a slightly tinted cutout. So with the molding paste, it definitely holds the ink a lot nicer. And so then I can use this on top of, I could put it back if I wanted to, but I would probably use it on top of a different piece of cardstock. So anyway, I kind of call that a 2-fer, actually a 3-fer, because when I sprayed and had the heart there, I can now tear that or cut that piece out and use that for something else. So it's a 3-fer for take 5. Thanks for joining me. See you next time. Hi, just one more thing. I wanted to show you what I ended up doing. There was a patch on here that kind of looked a little bit rusty where I had sprayed the rusty hinge, and so I decided, ooh, that looks kind of cool, so I wanted it to look more like rust. So I ended up holding my breath so I wouldn't wreck it, and I came back over it with vintage photo and I can't find it right now. Oh, the rusty hinge distress oxide spray, and then that dried kind of muted, and so then I came back over with the rusty hinge regular spray stain. I wanted a little bit more brown in it, and I didn't have the spray stain in the brown colors, so I took a re-inker and I just put a dot on. This is just like a piece of plastic left over from transfer paper. So it's really plasticky. You could use the top of an ink pad, the top of a Tupperware, anything that's plastic, and put a drop of the distressed ink, spritz some water on it, and then kind of dabbed it into the wet rusty hinge spray stain, and then let it dry. And then in the middle, I wanted it kind of back to that greenish color, so I took the distress spray stain in, actually that's the wrong color, in Mermaid Lagoon, spritzed a little bit on this plasticky thing. I didn't add water, I just dabbed my brush into it and then kind of painted in between the lines. So anyway, I really like the look of that. I like that coloring. And then this, I just kind of dabbed a little bit with some of that walnut ink. And so if I wanted to now layer over the top, if I just didn't want to use that background, now it obviously has more contrast, and then ties in the parts of the green that I didn't cover over with the hinge color. So anyway, hope you like that update. Thanks again for joining me. See you next time.